Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
I'm Kara.
So, Kara, did you do anything this weekend that was different, cool, unique? I don't know. What fun thing did you do?
I went to Gates of Hell again.
Oh, you did? Ooh, spooky.
I had photo shoots there again.
Did anything
oh my God.
happen?
No, but I had weird people being weird.
Oh, yeah.
So while we were shooting there with my, I had two different there, and then, my later shoot, we were there, and this fucking family rolls up. Like, an entire family. I'm talking, a full family, 20 people roll up.
Oh, like an extended family?
Yes,
they're
grandma
and everybody?
to do their family photos in the...
What?
That's what I said!
Who does that? That is
nuts.
This
is so weird. This is not, a usual place. They were
right.
An interesting family to begin with.
There
they were
go.
Definitely... who takes photos?
Yeah,
they were
that
kind
is
of rude,
strange.
too. They would not, speak to look at us, or, they would look at us, but they were, be like... Because we were in the tunnel at the time, and you could tell that that's where they wanted to take
Wait a
photos
minute,
at.
they were going to take a picture of their family in the tunnel?
Yes, that's why I was like, this is weird. They had
a
photographer there
Are
and
you
everything.
sure? Wait a minute, are you sure they do?
I don't know. I'm just telling you what I saw.
Because are you sure it wasn't like a cult or something? They were calling up, some kind of demonic force?
I don't know. But there were other people there. We had some weird interactions, but it was just with weird people.
Really?
There was this other girl. They were clearly not with them. But they were smoking or pot, fucking whatever. But okay, they're sitting there, and then this girl she's standing in this random spot, and she's like, the light is coming through the trees perfectly right here. If you want to take a photo right here, I see taking photos. And we were like. I was like, we're actually almost done taking photos. But thank you for the advice.
Oh, wow. Holy moly. They were out, apparently. They must have been a full moon.
Unusual, but it was just...
That is strange.
Because Harley told me that because I was shooting with Harley. Harley told me when they left that they saw the group of people just show up, and they were like, that's weird. But yeah.
Really? Huh. So, did you hear or see any... I know, before
I did not
you guys have heard growling and stuff when you were there.
I mean, I was already on edge because there were people there.
Right.
But I didn't really see any crazy... And it just rained, so... Harley was there the day before, and apparently it was all, flooded earlier, so I think if there was anything cool there, it probably got washed
away. That stinks.
We didn't really see anything.
Were there any dolls there like there have been the other times you've been there?
I was
really
mad.
Well, that's a bummer.
I know. Maybe next time.
We didn't do anything too interesting, except your brother finally got his temporary license, so we got to go do that on Saturday. That was interesting. Watch out, Ohio. Sam's on the loose.
Yeah, that's scary. That he's driving already.
I know. Isn't that scary to think that he's old enough to be able to drive a motor vehicle? And then Dad takes him out driving right away, which was interesting. We were in a parking lot. I just want to stress that to everybody. We did not take our child out immediately onto the roads. But while we were in the parking lot, Sam didn't realize that when you turn the car on and, if your foot's not on the gas, it'll actually move a little bit. So he thought that was fascinating and was sitting there, watching the car roll, thought it was funny to let the car roll. And then he almost ran us into a tree a couple times. I'm like, oh, dear God.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little unnerved about this child and driving. We'll see how he does. So that's all that happened to us. You want to go ahead and get started? I believe it's your turn to go first this time, since we like to switch it up for our listeners. So What are you doing this week?
So we're going to be talking about the Shanghai Tunnel, Oregon, because I'm flying out to Oregon tomorrow
exciting.
From when this is recorded. So this will date
yes.
what day we freaking recorded this.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, tomorrow I'm flying out to Seattle, but I found this really crazy story and I was like, okay, it's kind of weird. So underneath the old Chinatown in Portland, there is a labyrinth of interconnected tunnels / basements run all the way to the waterfront area. Because Oregon's on a river, basically.
Now, it wasn't part of the underground route.
It's way west.
East.
I think.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, this is the West Coast. So the tunnel gets its name because they're...
Did the pirates use it to bring gold and stuff into town by any chance?
that was a lot more messed up.
Oh, okay.
So there was a term, Shanghaiing someone. It was known as the practice of kidnapping a man to serve as sailors against their will. Most of it was like en route to China.
Oh, okay.
That's why it was specifically called Shanghai.
Oh, and
so
interesting
the tunnels
that
were,
it was under little Chinatown too.
Yeah, it was that. So the tunnels were built by the Chinese
okay.
workers during the time when Chinatown was the center of the trade business. So this is like in the 1850s.
All right.
So it's pretty old where the tunnels were built. But yeah, so Shanghai is when basically they kidnapped the sailors against their will to work for them. But people believe that that is what the tunnels were used for, and they were kidnapping people from the like area and dragging them through the tunnels.
Ooh, that's scary. Back
to because the tunnels led directly to the waterfront. This is all like rumors. This is all like folklore for the area, so we don't actually know how accurate this is. A lot of people say that they didn't happen, but it is weird that it was happening in the area. Okay. So it could have happened, but we don't know if that's what the tunnels were specifically used for that. But that's the folklore. So the tunnels were used from the mid-19th century to 1940s. Historically, the tunnels were used to transport from the river to businesses in the area, because then they would be able to avoid the street cars and like foot traffic, basically. Mm-hmm. A lot of the tunnels actually today are collapsed in the water, so there's a lot of flooding because of Portland is. But you can go on tours today.
What?
For some of them.
No way. Let's go.
Yes, you can go on tours.
I want to go.
That's why I was like, this sounds so cool. You know, guess who's been here?
Who?
Ghost Adventures.
What? Really?
Yes.
Huh. Okay.
They've been here.
I didn't know that.
That's why I was like, oh, maybe some spooky stuff going on. But I mean, considering a men looking for a quick buck would search bars in the area, and they would wait until they were super drunk, knock them out, and they would drag them into the basement. And because all the basements were connected, then they would drag them through the basement to the docks, and then sell them for money, so that they can make like $50 off of this.
So that's like a
blood
big
money,
way to make a lot of money back then.
Especially back in the day. That was like a lot of money back then.
Like a fortune.
But apparently, some men were able to escape, and they warned people in Portland, like, hey, you need to be careful when you're drinking. A lot less men started to get taken. But so then when less men were being taken, they were like, okay, well, let's just kidnap women instead.
Wonderful.
Because that's a great thing
awesome
to turn to.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really creepy. So the bars had trap doors that were sprung on unsuspecting victims, women. And they would be put in cages in the floor.
Oh, that's crazy. And nobody could see them?
Yes, and like you can go see these cages today. It was like a trap door. They'd pull a trap door out from you, and you would just fall through the floor.
Oh, that's insane.
And you couldn't get out.
Nobody could hear you above in the bar. Oh, because there's probably so noisy. Because
it's a bar. It's so noisy.
Yeah. Dang. That's
and then prostitution rings
those were probably
would use the tunnels to keep large groups of women in them, in cages.
Oh, what?
That's what I said.
Wow.
I mean, like I said, this is like the lore of the place. There's that was like this rumors that were spread around about what people were doing. So take all this with a grain of salt, but it's still pretty wild. I'd never heard about this in my life. So during the Prohibition, the tunnels were used to transport alcohol.
I can see that. Yeah, gotta have our rum and all that good stuff.
So the police would raid bars and the taverns frequently. So the bars started hiding their alcohol stash deep in the tunnels to avoid being arrested. The labyrinth was so crazy, because essentially it's like if all of your neighbors' basements were connected. It was hard to track everything. But yes, they were being used for
nefarious purposes,
which makes sense. Yeah, I believe they stopped being used around the 1940s.
Right.
And then they kind of went quiet
that's when
for a while.
Prohibition ended.
And then a lot of it was just damaged because of how old it was. It was built in the
a lot of years.
50s, so it's kind of old. And so a lot of it's collapsed, and it's very dangerous to go into these rooms nowadays. But there are rumors of alleged hauntings. You can go on paranormal tours there. Well, I don't know if you can now, but before COVID you could. I don't know if it started back up. But they were renovating a new section of tunnels, and basically the workers refused to work because of all of the crazy stuff that was going on, paranormal wise. So the Shanghai tunnels are reportedly to be one of the most haunted places on the planet. That's what they claim. But
everybody
you know how these places
I get so tired of hearing about that.
I know.
It seems like everybody is.
I'm like, okay, you are also on this list. It does look creepy. I've seen photos. It's kind of scary. So visitors report goosebumps, knocking, growls. Some have reported seeing an Asian man walking past them in the tunnels. Because, like
right,
I said,
yeah.
the whole
Just
China,
it was like, yeah,
Chinatown thing. And then movement in the shadows is reported. So shadow people. Don't mess with shadow people.
Especially the Hat Man.
Yeah, no. And being tapped on the shoulder has also been
yeah.
reported. There also been reports of trickster-like ghosts, like playing tricks on you, like pulling your hair, tugging on your shirt. While this is a whole thing that's happened, Seattle also has a very similar thing.
Really?
To this, which I want to
say
go.
You need to go on one of those tours if they have.
It's called the Seattle Underground.
Really?
I didn't know about this either. So poor city planning led to the Seattle Underground. Because of flooding, because when they built Seattle, it was water level. And, the water table was risen. So basically, it would flood often, and they were like, this is stupid. And most of the city was built on wood.
What?
Like, completely, originally, everything was made with wood because of where lumber is.
Oh, that's right, because there's all those,
in Seattle.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, we got this booming lumber business, let's just build everything wood, which is a terrible idea.
Especially since they get so much
idea.
rain. I mean, can you imagine the rotting that goes on there?
That is the other thing. First of all, in 1886, a carpenter accidentally left a pot of glue on the stove, and the entire downtown city of Seattle burned to the ground.
Oh my god, holy crap. Well, that makes sense because
city,
it was all wood.
Because of the wood.
Wow. Well, there's a lesson, people. Don't build your entire house from wood.
This is insane. Listen to this part. Okay, so they were like, well, poop. We kind of failed at city planning. Right. So let's start this over. We're going to raise the entire street level 12 feet. So essentially...
That is insane.
This is crazy.
What?
Yes.
Wait, how did they raise it 12 feet, though? Did they just build a
They literally just built on top of the already built city.
Stop.
Isn't that crazy?
That is insane.
So they built on top of it, and there was times where the underground was being used because it was a partial. You climb on ladders to get up to your second floor building. All the businesses just built up.
Oh, that is
hysterical. They used cement, and they would take whatever was built already, the wood, and just build on top of it.
Oh, that is insane.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I had no clue that even happened in Seattle. And so you can tour those.
That sounds
which I'm like,
yeah,
I want to go tour.
You gotta get a tour while you're there, yeah. Definitely.
It's also similar to the other. Isn't that crazy that these two cities, they're 3 hours apart?
Oh yeah,
so they're both in Oregon.
Huh.
And they both have basically these labyrinths of cities underground. So the Seattle Underground's interesting because it was still being used. Because it was basically what the old city was, and it was just raised on top. That's great. 12 feet, basically.
That is insane.
I don't know. I just thought that was crazy. Yeah. I didn't even know that was a thing that they did.
That's taller than a one-story house.
Yes. And they just were like, well, I guess we'll just... And so a lot of the normal businesses moved up to the top part of the street. And then, the seedier businesses, prostitution rings.
They were all underneath in the basement,
a lot of people kept their underground.
Really? Interesting.
For a while.
Wow.
Obviously, it was
condemned at one point.
Everyone out. Yes, and they got kicked out in 1906.
Oh, okay.
It was. And the city was like, "Hey, you can't do business down here legally anymore."
Wow. Well, doesn't mean they weren't doing.
And they're like, "You have to go up." Yeah, there was still some illegal stuff, and a lot of people forgot. They kind of covered it up. They were like, "Haha, this didn't happen. Just kidding." And then there was a reporter that started reporting on it in the 1950s, and then they were like, "Let's go in and see what's down there." It's not quite as haunted as the other one because of.
But
it was just more of a.
Would be though if
it was still somewhat haunted.
Because
you can still go on ghost tours.
That whole thing went in flames. How many people died and all that though?
Down.
I know, but how many people died? So why isn't there more?
A lot of people probably died in that. The Seattle fire. That's apparently a big historic event. I'd never heard of it before.
Huh. That is crazy.
Yeah, and I was like, oh. I'll be in Seattle.
Check it out while you're there.
I'm going to try and convince Leah to come with me to go, because it sounds kind of cool.
It does sound neat.
So, basically all of the basements are connected because there were streets connecting everything, which is just wild that two places have essentially the same, different backstory, but the stories felt kind of connected, so I was like, I'll talk about them both. But yeah, that was what I learned. It was very crazy.
I just keep thinking of the Goonies, and remember when they were looking, the pirate gold and all that down there, but remember it was based in Seattle and all that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I wonder
if they were talking about the caves and all that, and I wonder if that was into that. You know what I mean? I wonder if pirates used the underground tunnels to store their booty and their rum and stuff in when they were doing runs and stuff. Interesting.
But that's crazy that they would
That's insane that you just built the city on top of the original city.
During that time when it was being built, You were just had to use both. You would be like, you would just be like, oh, I'm climbing up the ladder to go to the top part of my house.
Right.
Because my business is in the basement. And, like, the streets were, like, completely rebuilt. Everything. Yeah. They were just like, let's just cover this up because we kind of messed up the first time we made
when
Seattle.
They rebuilt the city, did they build it all out of wood, or did we learn our lesson?
No. They made cement. They used cement that time.
Okay.
So there's probably a lot of stuff.
At least they learned a lesson.
Like, entombed down there. Because
I bet.
They covered it all in, like, cement.
All the stuff that's there? Yeah.
There's some stuff you can still explore, but it's probably not super safe. There's, like, safer parts you can go to with probably the tour and stuff.
Huh. Interesting.
So that was kind of got some history lesson. I had no clue about either of those ones. All right, what do you have for today?
I'm going to talk about, this is kind of a crazy one. It's called the Oklahoma Octopus. And this is a cryptid that reigns from Oklahoma, and if any of us know anything about Oklahoma, it's like the most driest, boringest place you could ever have. So it's kind of funny that they have an octopus, apparently, that, terrorizes the waters there in Oklahoma. So the story goes, or there is a couple of lakes in Oklahoma. Now, keep in mind, these are all man-made lakes, so they do not have any water entering from any like ocean, seas, or anything like that. So the first lake that we're going to talk about is called Lake Thunderbird. This is a reservoir in Norman, Oklahoma, and the beast is supposed to hail from this area. Anyway, it's supposed to have a body as large as a horse. It's red in color, and it has 8 arms or tentacles, and its skin is very tough. Many unexplained deaths have happened in that lake and the other 2 lakes that I'm going to talk about when I tell you more about the story. So the octopus is said to inhabit some of, like I told you, these fresh water. Now, if just to give you guys a quick fact here about octopus. Octopus do not, almost all of them are from ocean water or salt water. You do not find them in fresh water. But, come to find out, when I was doing some research lately, that there have been times where the octopus have managed to rearrange their DNA or their whatever it's called inside of them so that they are actually able to be freshwater. And it just so happens that there are some freshwater octopus that you can find in the Licking River, which is actually right here where I live in the greater Cincinnati area. And the Licking River is one of the 3 rivers that runs into the Ohio River where I live. So I thought that was interesting that they're actually, freshwater octopus. Now, back to the story. So, like I said, this particular octopus was said to inhabit some fresh water in this man-made lakes in Oklahoma. The other 2 lakes are Lugu Lake and Lake Tenkiller. Now, these were where it would attack and kills unsuspecting swimmers. And it seemed like it would always attack them if they were in a certain area of these lakes or whatever. There's also said that each of these lake areas have like an island that they think this octopus thing kind of, swims around or is kind of protecting. But there also happens to be a Native American legend that is over 200 years old that tells of a strange aquatic creature with a desire for human flesh. And they say that this particular legend is a leech. And it's like this giant leech thing, and it will like suck your blood out of you or whatever. It's interesting to note that Lake Thunderbird is red in color. And some people speculate that this is where the red color on this octopus that has been spotted is from the red coloring in the lake. But that's a natural occurring thing because all of the dirt in that portion of Oklahoma is red, and that's why the lake gets a red coloring. Like I said, both of these lakes, the Thunderbird Lake and Lake Tenkiller, are the ones that have the high number of drownings and unexplained disappearances. In fact, they were saying in the year 2008, they had a 40% increase in unexplained disappearances and drownings in those two lakes. The Oklahoma octopus is a cephalopod, or more specifically an octopus. If it was real, it would be one of the only freshwater dwelling cephalopod species around. Just a little background on these lakes. Lake Thunderbird was built in 1962. Lake Ulugu was built by the Army Corps of Engineers in 1950. And Lake Tenkiller was also built by the Army Corps of Engineers, and it was built around that same time. So these lakes have not been around like forever. They're pretty recent. They've been built within, the last 70 years. So people think that the octopus got trapped by the receding seawaters, like it was a fossilized, type thing. And they think when they built the reservoirs and the lakes and that it somehow reanimated it, and that's why they have this octopus thing swimming around in their waters. About octopuses, their DNA is different from all other DNA on the earth. Scientists claim that no one knows where their genes come from. In fact, when the octopus genome was sequenced in 2015, it led scientists to describe it as an alien. It says, usually animals that are related in evolution share a lot of the same DNA, but octopus have hundreds of DNA that don't appear in any other animals, including mollusk, which is the next closest animals to the cephalopods, or octopus. So it's interesting to think that when they did the genoming sequence for them, that they came up with all these different DNA, chains of DNA. Some fun facts about our friend the octopus. They can walk on land for short periods of time. They are sentient. They have no bones. This is the craziest one. A 600-pound octopus can fit through a hole the size of a quarter. They are said to be very smart. They can learn to unscrew lids and fasteners, and they can open boxes just using their tentacles, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is
considering.
crazy.
I have a story here about an octopus. Actually, I have two stories about an octopus that managed to escape from his cage. This is awesome. In 2016, there was an octopus by the name of Inky at the New Zealand National Aquarium, and you can find the stories all over the internet. It was pretty crazy when it happened. Anyway, he escaped from his tank, making a break for freedom. So Inky was a male octopus that escaped from his enclosure through a small opening. He slid across the floor during the night, squeezed his body through a narrow pipe leading to open waters. Now, the guards, when they came in the next day, they quickly figured out where he had went by following the wet trail that he left behind. Inky had moved the lid on his enclosure, which he shared with another octopus in order to be able to get out of his tank.
Crazy.
Animals are fascinating, and their smartness is it's insane. There was also an incident, funny enough, in the 1980s in Boston's New England Aquarium. They said that they had several rare fish that kept disappearing from their tanks, and they couldn't figure out where these fish were going. So they would put more in, and they'd restock them, and they would disappear the next morning. And they're like, well, what's going on? Well, one morning, one of the researchers at the aquarium arrived earlier than usual for work and found one of the octopuses perched on the tank of the missing fish. Apparently, the cephalopod had been flopping out of his tank, sliding across the floor to the other tank where the fish were being stored, and scaling up the side of the tank to get some extra food for himself. This was like a 3-foot journey that he would make just to go and get to this food. And the craziest thing was that when they would come in the morning, he would be back in his tank. So nobody had any idea that it was him
he was doing it.
this.
That's funny.
Yeah, isn't that nuts? And like I said, there are several videos out there showing this. It's just insane how smart they are. But I thought it was interesting about how they can actually walk on land out of water without needing the water to breathe for a little bit of time.
They're sneaky.
They are very sneaky. So there are a couple stories, though, about the actual sighting of the Oklahoma octopus that I want to share with you guys. And then I just have a couple theories that people have thrown around over the years about how or why this thing exists in the waters there. The story that I have happened in 2016. A couple of girls were drifting in the lake when something hit the side of one of the girls' leg and knocked her sideways in the water to the point where she was swallowing some water. Now, she thought her friend did it, but her friend was suddenly missing and nowhere to be found near her. So the friend came up a bit for a brief moment, but was pulled back underneath the water by something. And then something grabbed a hold of the first girl's ankle again and pulled her several feet into the water to the point of, she was starting to drown a little bit. Thankfully, though, after being dunked a couple of times, both the girls were able to get away. They described the thing that had grabbed them like an octopus was gripping. There's also another very famous story that got this whole thing started about this Oklahoma octopus thing that came out of a show on Animal Planet. It was about 5 drunk teenagers were out in the water one day on Lake Thunderbird. They were drinking, obviously, and having a good old time, and they were out there swimming in that. And 3 of their friends disappeared all of a sudden, like under the water or whatever, and they couldn't find them. So the other 2 who were drunk, dove in the water, were screaming for help, and they went trying to go find their friends. The one, they found her days later. She was, she had gotten, I guess, I don't know what had happened, but she gotten trapped somewhere and her body finally showed up. But the other 2 were missing and nobody could find them anywhere. And they think, or they suspect that somebody thought they saw like an octopus creature. Although some people describe it as kind of crab, like part crab, part octopus type thing. Mm-hmm. But anyway, somebody said they saw that in the water, and that's what they think got the theories about how it got to be there. If you actually look on a map, the 3 lakes that I told you about form a triangle that happens to point to Roswell, New Mexico. Some people, alien. Yep, some people think the octopus could be an alien from another world left behind to keep track of us here on Earth to make sure we don't find out the real truth about aliens.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one. I'm not saying I agree with any of these. I'm just telling you what people are saying. Another one is the indigenous people, like I told you before, believed in the sea creature that was there. It was like kind of like a leech thing. But here's a different theory on that. Somebody theorized that maybe it's a skinwalker, because this was Native American land at one point, that has taken on the shape of an octopus. That one could be. You never know.
I could see that one.
This one day, these people were out and they were fishing in the lake, and they happened to catch a octopus. Okay, and it wasn't like a huge one, but it was it was like a kind of smaller one. And they were like freaking out. Oh my God, it's spawning. It's made babies. Blah 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 blah. So they go and they run, they tell the news and all this. Well, they come to find out that a restaurant that sits on one of the lakes there had a seafood bar, okay, earlier in that day. And somebody thought it would be really funny to take the octopus that was in one of the tanks there off the bar and throw it into the lake. And that's what they think they had caught. Somebody also said that somebody caught a live octopus in the water, a very small one. The one reservoir has like a dam in it, and it was like kind of close to the dam part where they found it, where the water is kind of.
Yeah.
But anyway, they said they actually caught it on their line and pulled it up, and they said they think it was somebody's pet. I'm like, okay, have we not learned anything from New York City in the sewers and throwing alligators in them, right? I mean, seriously, people. Do we really need to infest the waters with octopus? I mean, it's bad enough we have freshwater sharks and stuff like that and alligators. Do we really need to add octopus to the thing? Yeah, that's all I have on the Oklahoma octopus.
Pretty
so
wild.
If you go to Oklahoma, be careful. Watch the water you're in. If you see anything that looks kind of mysterious, maybe not go near it.
That's pretty.
So I guess this week's takeaway is A, don't swim in water where you can't see the bottom. And what do you think the takeaway is from yours, Kara?
Don't build the entire city on just wood.
Exactly, because,
it's going to
set up in
one
flames.
fire and the whole city will burn down.
It's gone. Yeah, never a good thing.
That is wild that they thought that was smart.
Right? Oh, we would like to wish everybody a very happy Easter.
Oh, yeah.
Easter's coming up on this Sunday, although by the time you hear this, it won't be Easter. But anyway, I know it'll be. But anyway, we want to wish everybody a happy Easter. I'm going to Las Vegas, so I'm excited. Maybe I'm planning on going to go see Zach's museum out there, his haunted. Yeah, I can't wait.
Ugh,
it's gonna be creepy,
so mad
scary. Well, maybe I'll have to go back because Dad will be like a poo-pooer the whole way with me. I'll have to take you because you're still be into it. I'll bring you back to see.
Not haunted.
Yeah, I make sure it's not haunted. Alright, well, I think that's it. 2 weeks.
If you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity can kill these two scaredy cats.